The name of my piece is Crescent, and it's cast glass and steel. I made this piece by casting these glass discs, and then they sort of go over a steel frame, and it took me the better part of about 9 months to cast all of the different pieces of glass, and then another 3 months to do the steel and work. The inspiration for this piece was the work that I made before this was called Levee Break, and it was all about the floods in Katrina. And as I lived in New Orleans at the time and watched the city rebuild, I wanted to do sort of an homage to the way that the city was putting itself back together. And so that was the original inspiration for the piece. And the reason that the work is crescent shaped is because I wanted it to represent the Crescent City. One of the things that I love is the way the moon looks. And so I thought that the look of that glass at night when it's glowing was, and since the work was crescent shaped, I like pulling in that reference to the crescent moon. This was the first piece that I'd ever lit up, and it just really felt right for both the hope that the city was going through in rebuilding itself, and also just the way that object is in the night sky. A lot of the themes that I pursue in my work come out of personal experience. Formally, the work that I make is, it tends to be large scale, and I work with cast glass and steel, and that dictates a lot of the forms that I create, but I tend to not do the same thing twice. So when you talk about sort of themes in my work, I'm not the kind of artist that has sort of these few items that I sort of really explore. I get bored easy, and so one of the good and bad things about the way that I work is that I'm always reinventing the wheel. But the work always begins with an idea. And so for Levee Break, for example, it was about the water coming over the levees after Katrina and flooding the city, and I wanted the viewer to have this sense of being overwhelmed. And with Crescent, I wanted it to be a piece about hope and rebuilding, and so I start from the idea, and then I figure out, well, what's the best way to convey that idea to the viewer? The way that community art projects like this bring art to everybody in the community is something that I think is so important. We don't have arts funding in schools the way that we used to. Art education in schools is not what it should be, and even then, it's often a very limited, curriculum. And so bringing art into the community where it can interact with everybody who walks by, I think is really important. I don't remember who said this or where I read it, but the line that stuck out to me was, walls are for other people. And if you're meant to do something, or if it's something that you're passionate about, you're going to run into obstacles. And if it's something that you really want to do, those obstacles might be inconveniences, but they're not barriers. And so when I think about making this work, I get overwhelmed almost every single piece I've ever made. There's a moment where I'm like, I can't do this. And that's when I know I'm on the right track, because it feels bigger than me. And that's where the challenges are, that's where the passion is, that's where I think the most interesting things happen, is when you're outside of your comfort zone. And if you're making work that's easy or that you've made before, where's the exploration, where's the challenge? And so that's sort of my driving force, is coming to this work in a way that challenges me.